Well, Gary, it wasn't necessarily all that pretty at times, but another all-important 4 points banked against the Northern Blues on Saturday as we prevailed by 23 points. Sometimes it doesn't matter how you get the 4 points, and I suppose that was the case, wasn't it, as we ticked off another win on the road against a pretty solid opposition, it must be said.
Yeah, it was, Sam, and obviously it would have been hard to replicate the performance against Casey, so I think I would call it a business-like performance, and we rolled the sleeves up, and what were we in front at quarter time? I think we were about almost 4 goals, and that was probably pretty much the difference for most of the game. So good to get another win, as you said. The away games are super important to just keep us in a position where we're building a good base, and at the end of the day it was probably a professional win, and yeah, we did enough.
Individually, it was good to see some good contributions from the likes of Scott Clark, Eli Templeton, Tom O'Sullivan and Lucas Cook as well in his 100th game. And even the veterans, Chris Kane, Sam Dwyer, they played pretty solid games as well. But it must be pleasing for you to see different names bobbing up in the best players week to week and not just relying on a core group to get you these wins.
Well, I think that's important. Obviously, where we need to go, we need a total team contribution, and we obviously chose not to make any change to the team after their performance against Casey. So it's important from a consistency point of view. I thought Murdoch was pretty good once again, and as you said, Eli, I thought Vojo was pretty good again too. Cook in his 100th game. His last 2 weeks, in the absence of Brody Mychek, has been really important. Huey Sandilands, the whole defensive 7 I thought was really good. Even Mitchy Wolferton has come in over the last fortnight too, and he's been able to play a pretty important role as an outside mid. And you know, both Chris Carey and Scotty Clark, and even Josh Tynan for that matter too, in the roles that they're playing for the side at the moment, it's pretty constructive. So we need to do that. You know, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger all the time, you know, whether it's Sandringham or whether it's Williamstown or Werribee in the next 3 weeks. So all those games are pivotal to where we need to get to, I guess, and we're back at home. So, yeah, we want another positive result.
And the results fell our way elsewhere in round 12, which now sees us currently atop the table in both the seniors and the development league, despite the disappointment of their loss. And although we do sit first overall, do you still see a certain level of improvement to come from the group as we progress through the second half of the year?
Oh, most definitely. You know, I'd be crazy not to sit here and say that as a coach you're always demanding, you know, more and more, and it was a little bit disappointing from our development team because they never really got going either. There was a little bit of a breeze favouring one end in the first quarter, but subsequently the jump that Northern Blues development got on our development side was about 17 points, and that ended up being pretty much the result at the end of the game. So we need those guys to be really putting internal pressure on our senior group. Hopefully Khan will be available this week to play after his illness, and possibly David Iacarino, and it was good to see Lockie Waddell play because he's been pretty crook for a couple of weeks. So there's guys knocking on the door. Mitch Golby had a pretty good game for 3 quarters. I thought Harvey Hooper's last few weeks has been pretty solid. Big Winnie, he played pretty well in the ruck, I thought. So there's a little bit there. Whether we make change or not will just be depending on what we see our opposition and what Sandringham did against Footscray on the weekend.
And this Saturday we are back at home for another 2 consecutive weeks, starting with Sandringham, whose form has been mixed so far, it's fair to say, but they're always a dangerous opposition, particularly when they have such a strong influence from some of their St Kilda listed players dropping back from AFL level. So no doubt another big game for us coming up this week.
Yeah, it's always interesting with the AFL alignments. Obviously, Sammy, I think Carlton or Northern Blues had 17 AFL listed players on the weekend, and just watching Sandringham's form, they've had really big quarters where they've scored pretty heavily and quite quickly. So we know that they're obviously a formidable opposition, and in that final last year they got hold of us a bit because of the way they played, and you know, we couldn't step up in that particular game. So having said that, I'm sure we've improved since last year, but every week now in the month of July is all about rolling the sleeves up and just putting your best effort out there, and we've really got to make sure that, as you said, it's another home game. We're obviously really respectful of the opposition, but yeah, it's just another vital game in the context of the season.
Well, Gary, thanks for your time and good luck once again this week.
Thanks, Sam.